The girl you remember is dead.
Hi, I'm Chris Sigaty. I'm production director on StarCraft II. We're internally called Team 1. We're also working on Blizzard All-Stars. StarCraft II Heart of the Swarm really started right after the launch of Wings of Liberty. We started talking about what Heart of the Swarm would end up being, what would this campaign be, what would the multiplayer reaction be to it. We've actually taken a little longer than we have with our previous expansions, and for good reason, because Wings of Liberty has turned out to be a game that the community has really embraced, and the multiplayer landscape was still developing, and it still is developing today. We're almost 2 years out from the release of Wings of Liberty, so it's going to be a little over 2 years probably by the time the game comes out. We're a couple of months now away from going into beta, but in this particular case, because of how the community has embraced it and how the game's multiplayer has been changing, it feels right to take a little bit longer with this, and so a little bit over 2 years, I would say, for Heart of the Swarm's release. What I can tell you about Heart of the Swarm's single-player campaign is it picks up really from where Wings of Liberty leaves off. So you see Jim Raynor walking off into the sunset carrying Kerrigan, and she looks like she's deZergified, or the Zerg essence really is gone from her body. So the Heart of the Swarm is all centered around exploring what's happened to her, what's going on, and starts off with them in a lab studying Kerrigan and what's going on with her. So I don't want to ruin what happens in the story, but it's pretty exciting. We're putting the finishing touches on that campaign right now. I'm personally very excited about where it's gotten. It feels very tight. It really does let you play out and be Zerg. And we've changed the mechanics in there in a way that I think will play to what players want from the campaign. So, it's all coming together, and really they will find out what's happened to Kerrigan, and the story will continue from there. Yeah, so Heart of the Swarm adds 20 new missions to the game. We also have an evolution mode, which adds actually some other sort of mini missions that you can play as well. The campaign does have a couple missions where you don't play as Zerg, something that we also had in Wings of Liberty, where you got to play as Protoss in a few different missions, so we have that as well, where you're not always Zerg, but the majority of the campaign you're focused on playing as Zerg. So that's a sum total. So I think one of StarCraft II's biggest challenges is being able to take new players in and make them feel safe in it, and it's just one of those things about the game. I think with multiplayer, it doesn't make it that much worse. It is what it is. What's important for a player that hasn't even an inkling of wanting to try it is sticking with it for a few games and starting to understand that there is this depth and not being intimidated. I think a lot of people see and hear of StarCraft II initially and sort of make that judgment that I can't do this. You can. And in fact, we have a lot of people that once they do take the step and finally do have really formed a strong relationship and bond with it. As far as how Heart of the Swarm affects that, it adds a little bit more complexity, but the real, I think, challenge for players getting into it isn't at the individual unit level. It's sort of the sum total of all the things, that feeling of you're never quite able to do everything you want to do all the time, and that's even true at the pro level. And once you kind of come to terms with that, the game makes sense. So I don't think Heart of the Swarm hurts it. We want to try and help it. We're not doing a ton of new things in Heart of the Swarm to help it, but we're continuing to look and talk at how can we help people break that perception that they can't do it, because they can. It's just a matter, again, of convincing yourself that that's how you're supposed to feel, a little bit out of control. And once you do start to embrace that, people really form a very strong relationship with StarCraft II. Sure, so there's several things actually we've already done to the graphics engine, and they'll release not with Heart of the Swarm, but actually in this upcoming patch that we have available right now. It's in beta. It's called our 1.5 patch, or our arcade beta patch. It's in test at the moment, and it updates our low quality settings graphically are much better looking, is the best way I can describe it. Terrain looks a lot less washed out and blurry, and a lot more distinct in detail. There's a number of different things we've done on the physics engine. If you watch, this is actually tied to Heart of the Swarm, but with burrow charge on the Ultralisk, when units die now, we're doing a lot more physics with units and flinging them around and doing things like that add to a more visceral game. And then the other things that are coming out, which are not necessarily graphical in nature, but with 1.5 or arcade beta patch, we're really changing the UI, putting a lot more power into the user's hands. So for example, we have a quick nav functionality in the UI where you can assign hotkeys to go where you want to in the UI. So if you tend to be a multiplayer player playing 1v1 matches and you like to go look at your league standing and this, you can store those settings in your quick nav and quickly go where those are. And there's a number of sort of quality of life improvements that are in the game. So a number of different things graphically in general that will just come out in the patch. We're then doing more improvements to come online with Heart of the Swarm and around that time. So we have clans and groups that will be coming online with Heart of the Swarm. We have a number of different replay features. One is multiplayer replay viewing. So the three of us, for example, could get together and watch a replay we had just played together and be able to chat back and forth while we're watching what our tactics were. We also have Resume from Replay that's coming online that allows players to take a replay from anything. It could be a pro match that they were watching and say, you know what, let's see what you do at 11 minutes in. We saw MVP, this famous pro gamer, do this particular tactic, but what if you started from that point and I'll start and I'll play the other side and I'll try something different, and just to see and learn. So there's a great learning experience coming online with that. We're also adding global play, which allows players to play on different servers. So for example, a US player will be able to go play on the Korean servers if they want, which will allow matching with other players once you do that you wouldn't have been able to match against previously unless you bought a copy there. Addition of language packs now, so people will be able to download and play language packs. So a number of different features that are coming online with Heart of the Swarm. So graphically, quality of life-wise, user interface-wise, all improved sort of the landscape. So good stuff. Heart of the Swarm multiplayer beta is coming up very soon. We're about 2 months out, a couple of months away from starting the beta. Again, we're going to get through it. Generally, we take a number of months to play beta, get feedback, react to it, do that, and then beyond that will be the launch. So, you know, it's coming up. We're hoping definitely this year, but you know, we'll see. It's all based on the feedback we hear and see. But for sure, beta's coming up here very shortly.
Vengeance shall be mine.